asking for your approval to amend that contract.
All right. Motion by Supervisor McGowan, second Supervisor Driscoll. Any question or discussion? Supervisor McGowan.
Yeah, that's for that much of addition, that's a heck of a place.
I know, yeah, I've actually, I have a message into our rep, Liz, to talk about the billing and how expensive the Laserfish system actually is. And just trying to learn more about what it does, because I don't think we're getting the full value of the software package. So hopefully, we'll learn how to use it as a document store. It's going to be in the billing system eventually. Up until now, it's been used primarily for a billing software, but I think it actually does a lot more. I'm just not that familiar.
Well, take one, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor McGowan.
Any other questions? Supervisor McDevitt.
Help me with assigned counsel versus public defender, okay? And is it in terms of when you would get involved and what would be the rationale and perspective as to why you'd be involved?
Public defender is your primary law firm, is the way I would describe it in Warren County. And when the public defender has a conflict with a case, then it would go to the assigned counsel program.
Okay.
Obviously, the family court system is probably the busiest as far as conflicts go, because the public defender's office can't represent both sides. And then we have what I would call a conflict defender, which is a contract with the Legal Aid Society of Northeastern New York. So we contract with them to do some of the conflicts in family court when we have them to keep it keeps the price more manageable. Because we have a set price that we contract with them, and they take a certain amount of cases each year.
So essentially, if there's a conflict, he would pass it off to assigned
Right.
counsel. Yeah.
Yeah, it's usually the courts will let us know if the public defender has conflict, or the public defender's office contacts us and says that they're conflicted out. For instance, if there's a case where, say there's a robbery and there are 3 different defendants involved in the robbery, the public defender can't represent all 3 of them. So then we would have to go to the 18B list to get attorneys for the other 2 people.
Good. Thank you very much. Good.
Any other questions? All in favor of moving this?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Drew. I don't think we have any other items. Just a question. Excuse me, at last week's board meeting, we approved the move for your office to Green Street. Can you just tell us, is that moving forward?
Yeah, that's moving forward. So thank you for approving the move. I think having a larger office space is going to increase productivity in the office. It's hard when the phones are ringing and people are coming in to apply for assigned counsel, and there are 3 people sharing a small space. So I think it's going to be wonderful. I did go down and meet with Kevin Lynn on Monday, and he has taped out the space and how the office is going to be set up. I asked him if we could we're still on track for November 1st, and we are not. So I'm hoping by November 15th, we can get in there. I'm meeting with the furniture person from Charlie's Furniture this afternoon. There was some furniture at 333 Glen that Kevin Lynn has offered to the County Council program. So we're going to utilize that because if we don't have to purchase new furniture, that's always a good thing. So yeah, I think it's moving right along. I've asked him if we could put a telephone in the lobby. I know that some people voice concerns regarding safety issues in the building, so they've agreed to put a telephone in the lobby. So when someone comes to fill out an application for assigned counsel, they would ring the doorbell, and the doorman will answer it. And then he'll direct them to the telephone in the lobby, and then one of us would know that there's someone waiting to fill out an application, and we would go down to the lobby and get them and bring them up to the 3rd floor.
Good move. Okay, well, thank you. Keep us posted if there's anything we can do. Oh, thank you very much for being with us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Sure, we appreciate it. Next up is public defender. I neglected to open the privilege of the floor. Are there any comments for the committee? Seeing none. Okay, we'll move to public defender. There's 2 items on the agenda. The first is to apply for a grant. Mary, can you fill us in?
Yes, good morning. So the first item is to apply for a family court grant. It's for child welfare, quality improvement, and caseload reduction. I think we are doing a little bit of backtracking. This is actually due on Friday, so I've been working on it already. So hope to have your.
Motion that's Supervisor McCown, second Supervisor Smith. Any questions on that? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Second item is a request to extend an existing contract with LexisNexis.
Yeah, so this is to extend that for 2024. We currently use LexisNexis for the attorney, their research database. So we'd like to extend that for the year of 2024.
I think we talked about this before. Does each one of our legal offices have an independent contract with LexisNexis?
Yes, that's
Okay,
correct.
that's the way we'd like to keep it.
Well, for confidentiality reasons, what different sections of the county are accessed would be privileged and work product. So if there was one contract, arguably, there would be some ability to see what members of the DA's office are accessing, what members of the public defender's office are accessing, what members of the county attorney's office are accessing.
Okay, very good.
Innovation, but unfortunately necessary.
Understood. Motion by Supervisor McCown, second Supervisor Smith. Questions? Supervisor Smith.
This, this funding is gonna come out of this year's budget or next year's budget.
Next year, so this is 2024, so it's been 2024.
So it's in the 2024 budget.
Other questions, comments? Supervisor McDevitt.
LexisNexis, are there any other organizations that do this nationally? Or it just appears, and maybe for a good reason, I don't know, that maybe they're so good at what they do that they aren't a whole ton of competition, or my.
So there is, I
There is.
know that there's, I don't know if there's any other besides Lexis and Westlaw. We actually do have a Westlaw. It is slightly more expensive, so actually doing it this way where we've got access to both is the most beneficial for our office. Majority of the attorneys are used to the Lexis product. So that's also very beneficial for them for efficiency. They can continue with a product that they're familiar with.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor McCown.
But yeah, and any of this picked up by the Varel hearing?
Yeah, so there is a portion of this, so this kind of goes back to prior to 2018, fortunately, for back then, they still pay for it, and then the remainder of the addition.
Any other questions? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Anything else for us today? Thank you for being with us. Appreciate it. Next up is a probation. Our director is with us this morning. We have three agenda items. The first is to enter into an agreement with Christy Moores, a re-entering ambassador in the amount of $1,350 for the term of April 1, 23 through March 31, 24 regarding the Y Reconnects grant.
Yes, good morning, thank you. With the grant, we have three entry ambassadors. We've already had 2 contracts with 2. The third would be for Christy, who's an employee of the Glens Falls School System. So we're happy to have her come aboard and provide her expertise. And we do a lot of work with Glens Falls, so I think that'll be a great fit.
Okay, motion Supervisor McGowan, second Supervisor Driscoll. On the question. Seeing none in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Second item is a request to enter into an agreement with Big Brothers and Big Sisters of the Southern Adirondacks in the amount of $6,089 for the term April 1, 23 to March 31, 24 regarding the Y Reconnects grant.
Yes, we have a few contracts with Big Brothers and Big Sisters because of the great work they do. And this one has to pertain, which I think is important, to school mentoring. Big Brothers and Big Sisters is access to a couple schools, Glens Falls and Warrensburg and a few others. We're hopeful where they go in and set up mentoring programs. Research evidence supports mentoring is one of the best things you can do for students. So we're happy that Big Brothers and Big Sisters is willing to do most anything. But we do have a little money in the Y Reconnects grant to support this. So it's a worthwhile venture.
Motion move this for Supervisor McGowan, second Supervisor Smith on the question. Seeing none in favor? Opposed? Carried. Third item is the request transfer of funds from the probation budget, the regular salary line to the overtime salary line, in the amount of $1,500 to cover overtime costs.
Yes, we typically don't pay overtime, but a few weeks ago, we were asked, on a Sunday morning by the state police, to do home visits on our sex offenders regarding the child abduction that was at Moreau Park. So, we were contacted early Sunday morning. We were able to get 5 individuals in my office to come in, and we did home visits with the state police 4 or 5 hours. So it was something obviously worthwhile. We do a lot of work with police agencies. We have a group of dedicated probation officers that are willing to go above and beyond, and they came in on a moment's notice. So with that, they worked overtime, and like I said, we typically do not have money in our overtime budget, but we do have a little bit extra in salaries because we have a vacant position.
Okay, motion Supervisor McCown, second Supervisor Driscoll. Another question, Supervisor McDevitt.
Just a quick, now, that situation, that incident, that was resolved in a positive way, wasn't it?
I believe it was, yes.
Yeah, yes, so it just was, I mean, the press reports on it were horrifying initially, I thought, but it, I would strongly support, any overtime for, trying to aid and trying to better understand and rectify, such a horrifying family situation. So it makes a lot of sense.
Thank you.
Supervisor McCown.
Yes, Bob, I want to reach out and extend a big thank you, one for your excellent leadership in the way that you handle your department. Because with leadership like that, people will step up and do what they did. So please go back and tell your department, plus all the people that were involved in that, because that abduction hit me very hard too. So close to home, and really not needed, but the quickness that you all act, I really do appreciate that, and that really comes from good leadership that you have in your department and you share with all of them. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I have good supervisors, and we did a small part where we did something. So, and it was also, they also reached out to the probation departments in Washington and Saratoga County as well. So, and they also came in, and so like with anything, it's a community effort.
Well, you see me wear my hat, all right? I did in Warren County, okay? Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Bob, anything else for us this morning?
Yeah, just a discussion item. We talked about doing electronic monitoring on our juvenile population, specifically the raised the age between 14 and 17. So I just want to give an update. The contract went into effect on September 1. And as it turns out, it was perfect timing. Currently, we have 5 individuals on electronic monitoring, and I believe 1 will be coming on shortly. And these are the results of a crime spree that was well publicized within Glens Falls and some other things that happened. So the last couple of weeks has been a busy time in family court. I can tell you of the 5 that are currently on, detention was ordered for 2 of them. We were unable to find any. As we've said, accessing detention beds is extremely difficult. So 2 of them were put on electronic monitoring where they were headed to detention. And the 3rd one was in detention for 3 days. And when he came back to court, the judge put him on electronic monitoring instead. So, it's working. We have a small amount of money in there for the contract, which started September and goes to the end of March. At this rate, we will be probably back here asking for a little bit more money, but the cost benefit of paying $20 or $30 a day as opposed to $1,500, is, I think, a reasonable way to do business. So it was put in place at a time when we needed it, and moving forward, I think it's something that will ease the detention issues we have at certain times.
Thank you. Supervisor McCown.
Bob, since you've been using this, by any chance, did you happen to maybe squeak a little in on your budget anticipating this?
We have a little bit of extra money that we can put in there. When we first did it, we had no idea how it would go since we haven't done it. And like I said, there were some things, there were some incidents that happened over the summer Particularly in the Glens Falls area that were came to fruition, and I think as a result of it. But we do have some money to move on. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions related to this? Okay, thanks very much for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next up is the Office of Emergency Services. We've got our director with us, Amy Mason. There's two agenda items. The first is a resolution request authorizing the chair to execute grant applications to the New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services. Amy?
All right, so we're actually looking for a blanket resolution to apply for our grants. Most of our grants come from FEMA through dishes, and we are sub-recipients of that. And a lot of times when it gets to the state, sometimes it's a very short window before the application actually comes out for us to apply for it. It could be somewhere as short as 2 weeks. And with that time frame, it never really lines up with committee meetings and a board meeting. So that's why we're coming for a blanket resolution for this.
Okay. Motion to move forward. Supervisor McDevitt, second. Supervisor McNeil. Any questions? Supervisor Leggett?
Just some examples of those grants that come up every year.
Sure, it's the SHSP grant, which is for cybersecurity, sheriff's department, our department, and the LEMPG grant as well. We do have the hazmat grants too, so they all kind of fall into that bucket.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Supervisor McGowan?
Yes, maybe the administrator, the lawyer could help me. I mean, sometimes, and we've heard this before, where it's a last minute and they come up and, I hate to pass up on any of the grant money to help, because that would, that would definitely be a revenue stream for the county. But why do they, I mean, I understand kind of the process, but why do we have to ask for everything that they have to apply for a grant if it's something that a department sees? It should just be a blanket thing that we can do. That, for a grant, I understand opening up the code in the books for where grant money goes. But I mean, sometimes, because we've had these in the past where it's been, this grant just came up and we got to jump on it quick. And if it doesn't jive with committee or, a board meeting, there's a possibility of mixing these. I mean, is it a law that we have to do it this way? Applying for a grant? I'm just wondering if there's a blanket way of doing it. I think it sounds good.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I have no idea. So I'll turn to the county attorney, but I question sometimes why we come to the committee for a resolution specifically for every grant application that we want to apply for as well.
I mean, I understand putting it on the books, once we get it, so we can keep account of where that grant money goes. It just, it's just a question.
Supervisor Leggett?
Well, actually, does the clerk know the history?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
I think the board could adopt a policy allowing everyone to apply these, but in the past, the board has wanted these to come forward so you can determine whether there's a local share for these grants. And then make a determination based on the local share.
Which then goes back to a budget.
Yeah, at some point, you have to amend the budget to bring the money in, but this was a function the board had requested.
Supervisor Leggett?
Yeah, if I could just put in a plug here for the Warren County Comprehensive Plan, that's going to be in the works right now. But department heads should have more latitude on going for the money and not so much on oversight. We do have the statutory things we need to take care of on finance and budget and whatnot, but being given direction. I think that was the other thing for coming before here. This is something we want to spend our money on, and we make a decision of yes or no. But most of the times it is.
Yes. It's a deal.
Right, so if we can streamline the process, we'd be all the better for it.
Supervisor McGowan, you have a comment?
No, I'm just, thank you from Supervisor Leggett. I'm just trying to simplify things, but it is a revenue stream, so I think we should be going after everything.
Any other comments on this? Supervisor Driscoll?
Anne Marie, thank you, Chairman. we're pretty much looking at existing grants and things that we've seen before. So if a new grant opportunity became available, we would probably start it at the beginning and follow the process right through like we would do
Like we
normally.
would normally do, yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that that is reasonable to do that if there is a new grant that came out. Something that we haven't worked with before, so give everybody a chance to get eyes on it. Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. Mhm.
Well,
Supervisor McCown.
I'm a little confused with what you just said there, Supervisor Driscoll's. It's a grant coming in and our collectors are the ones that see these. And some of them that might come in quickly, and it might be a new one that they just drew out there. And if we have to go all the way back, it gets very confusing. Do we give them latitude or we don't give them latitude? I mean, a grant's a grant and it's usually a matching, usually they're either 100% or matching. And if, maybe we put a percentage in there, if it's over a certain percentage of matching, we can do something, but I would feel that, a revenue stream is a revenue stream and unless it's out of a, like I said, a percentage of a matching, should the directors be able to just trying to streamline things to make things a little simpler, but what you're saying, Supervisor Driscoll, it seems like, now we're back to me. So are we or aren't we? Or did I read that wrong?
I think that the new grant opportunities are going to be few and far between. I think what what I'm focusing on is streamlining existing type of stuff. Certainly I would like to have eyes, as Anne Marie said, on like a new thing, just so that we can, and if we take a quick look at it and give each department head the autonomy to basically say, I'm going to run with this, and it falls into that purview. But I think it's our responsibility, something new, something that may not be standard to what we've looked at before, just to give it a quick look before we kind of give the car keys to Anne Marie.
Kind of for an example of a new grant that had come out, which was from Dishes, was the Domestic Terrorism Plan grant. And we also did not have a lot of time to get that grant application submitted as well. So it's kind of a hurry up thing with that. So, it is important to know the new ones that are coming out, but I think as you said that if it's something you guys review and think it's okay for us to do it, then let it fall underneath the blanket at that point.
That's where I was going.
Supervisor Leggett.
So the resolution before us, these are for the grants through DHSES. With the one you just mentioned, does that go through the same?
It does, yes.
Supervisor McCown.
Well, as long as we're gonna make some changes, I mean. We could put that, instead of having like say along with discussion items, we have for applying for new grants. So you would think that the department head would come in on their committee meeting and say, these are the grants that I applied for, this past month that came up. Because we can always pull out of the grant if we don't like it, correct?
Sure.
If we go in and we find that it's really not necessary and it's a little over the top, we say, well, geez, thank you for applying for it, but we don't feel comfortable, with that amount of money or whatever, and pull it back, it's. That's all I'm saying is that we can basically open up the lines of communications between our directors applying for grant, but streamlining it all at the same time.
Any other comments? Amanda.
You're just looking for blanket authority to apply for grants?
Yes.
Okay, so this is gonna give her the authority to apply for grants. We still need to authorize grant agreements once these are come back. So she'll still come back and get authority. To authorize the chairman to execute.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, what my office has been trying to do, that it appeared that there used to be a resolution for every step in that grant process in the past. So we started consolidating, for example, when that first resolution comes in for a grant, including all of the required steps in one resolution. So there has been some batching, right? So the same grant department is not coming back multiple times on the same grant. Hopefully, we're doing one resolution to apply, accept, and hopefully even, I think,
Extend,
Ex-
modify.
yeah, we're really
accept
being
additional
extensive.
Funding, it's all on one resolution now, so inevitably, the state, I mean, we like when the state comes back and says there's additional funding.
Yep.
So now we can accept that funding.
But we've done it that way so that the committees and the board is getting at least that first early look at it. Because then you're seeing what the match is. The open question is if it's 100% funding from the state. That would, in my mind, what would the supervisors and the board want to do in that situation? Other than opening up a budget line for those funds? Is there still that same desire to see it when it comes in, know we're applying for it, and give all of those steps of authorization if it's 100% funded? So that would be my only information piece and future comment.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, just to refresh your memory, Supervisor McDevitt, the motion leaders, Supervisor McGowan, second it. No further question, all in favor? Opposed, carried. Thank you. Second item is request to formally adopt the 2023 Wayne County Hazard Mitigation Plan that many of us worked on. Emery?
So, the plan has been finalized and I had emailed the group the changes that were made to the plan. I didn't print out the plan as it is well over 1,000 pages. So it's in digital format and there is access to the plan in digital format. The changes that were done affected the planning section, county profile section, and the mitigation strategy section. Those have all been updated. Appendix J was added in response to public comment. So it's finally been wrapped up and we do have a final draft.
Motion Supervisor Leggett, Supervisor Smith. Question Supervisor McGowan.
Oh, we got a second?
Oh, yes, we did. Supervisor Smith. Supervisor Leggett.
This is the third iteration of the plan,
Yes.
and each time it gets more refined and better. How was the process this time? How was the contractor you worked with?
The contractor we worked with was the same as the second iteration of the plan, Tetra Tech. And having some knowledge of the county was very helpful to get the plan started. And I think the process went relatively well. We had a lot of steering committee meetings, planning committee meetings, and I know there was some effort made by Tetra Tech and CMCG, who was another contractor that subcontracted, Tetra Tech subcontracted through CMCG. They had offered some assistance to the towns as they do have someone who lives locally who was able to do some more assistance. And of course, there's a whole lot of people that are involved in this plan. You guys are all involved in the plan from your town levels. We've got GIS very involved in the plan. So it's a big effort, combined effort. So it takes a while to get it hammered out. But yeah, so hopefully the next iteration of the plan will be even better.
Any other questions? Supervisor Leggett.
Well, one other thing, talking about grant funding, this whole mitigation plan, having this on board with the county sets us up in a good position if we ever need money for any of
Yes, it
these
does.
items.
Yep, absolutely. Mhm.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried, thank you. No other agenda items. Emily, just one question. As the winter months approaching, certainly growing possibilities of severe inclement weather. Can you just give us an update and maybe a plug for the emergency notification system that was put in place last year?
Yep, so we do have an app that's called Ready Warren County, New York. And it will have a lot of information on it regarding storms. It does require us to input some information into it. And we can also kind of geolocate where some of the issues are. So you can actually download that app. It's available on Apple and the Google Play Store. If you download it on your cell phones, it's available and it's free, obviously. There's a lot of information on it besides emergency information. There's stuff where you can look at our river gauges. All the river gauge links are on there as well. So there's a lot of data that's feeding through it. There's also a QR code where you can download our Storm Reporter app. And I would encourage people to use the Storm Reporter app because it gives us some information throughout the county where some of the hazards might be. And if we can get to them timely, or they can get to us timely instead of the next day, we can possibly use that to help direct some remediation, highway departments, anything like that, if there's any roads blocked, anything like that. So, and the Storm Reporter app gives you the ability to take a picture on your cell phone and upload it, and we will get an email immediately notifying us of that.
Emery, for the next meeting, next committee meeting, could I ask you to give us an update in terms of the number of county residents that have signed up for this? And I think maybe we could probably do something with Dan's office to put a real push on this.
We can do that,
Okay,
absolutely.
Supervisor Leggett?
Right. Do you need cell phone coverage for that to work?
You should have cell phone coverage for it to work, but from what I understand, the app might be able to get through with less of a coverage. So it's just something we're gonna have to test and see if you've got it downloaded. Try it out in some different areas where you know you've got less cell coverage and see if it works. And the feedback would be helpful for us.
Right. Just having gone from Chester to North Creek and back down to here, there's a lot of area that does not have that cell phone coverage. And I'm thinking as our road crews are out there, they could be reporting in on this for everybody to know.
Absolutely.
So,
Yep, so if they could even just take a picture of it, send it through the Storm Reporter application, then we would get that information timely.
It's a great service. Thank you, Supervisor McCown.
Well, that brings up a great point, because I know every time I've tried to take a picture and send something in a note or a low cell, so it just. It's not until 10-15 minutes later, I get a little red exclamation point says it was not sent, so it's something that we definitely have to work on, but it's a great program. And I look forward to seeing the success of it. Thank you.
Anything else, Rammer? Okay, Emery, thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate it. All right, last up on the agenda items today is the sheriff's office. We have Sheriff LaFar with us. The first request is to ratify our actions in regard to submission of the application of the New York State Governor's Traffic Safety Committee grant and approval to accept the grant on the amended county budget accordingly. It's exactly what we were just speaking about.
exactly.
Sheriff?
Yeah, our items 1 and 2 go right to the point that you were just talking about. We request and administer, work through these grants a little bit differently, and I know that it's not a slight to any of our supervisors, so we'll make an application, especially for a recurring annual grant like this that we know we're going to utilize. We take the liberty, we apply, we receive the award. I can't be the signatory, it has to be the chairman of the board of supervisors anyway, so I can't just accept it without your approval. And then we come after the fact, request the ability to adopt it and receive the funds, that we can utilize these. This is the specific grant that we have every year. It allows us to go out and aggressively enforce aggressive drivers and to try to encourage seatbelt usage. And it's through the Governor's Traffic Safety Committee.
Move that forward. Supervisor Driscoll, second. Supervisor McGowan on the question. Amanda?
I'm sorry, I just wanted to note that in this, you're ratifying the application, approving the grant agreement, and there's a budget amendment tied in here too.
Yes, yep, agreed.
Question, Supervisor McGowan.
Thank you, Sheriff LaFar. Is there still a lot of people that don't wear the seatbelt? I actually have to say now it's gotten such a habit, if I don't have it on, all right, it's just a habit of putting it on.
Yeah,
I don't have it on, I actually think, oh my gosh, this could save my life, subconsciously. But a lot of people don't still wear it, huh?
There are, and it's the type of thing that you often wonder, like, why is there such a push from law enforcement for this effort? It should be the person's decision or their right. It's not like distracted driving where somebody's using a cellular device that puts others in harm's way. But we do it because we know that there are going to be accidents. We respond to these accidents and we see firsthand how differently it results when somebody is using a restraint device as opposed to not. So we're doing it to help to improve the safety and health of the occupants and the operators' vehicles.
And also aggressive driving. I definitely have seen an increase of frustrated drivers for whatever reason. I'm not quite sure. And the pushing of red lights, it really is amazing. I mean, everybody's in a rush to go. I'm not quite sure where, but no seatbelts and aggressive driving doesn't help any of us. But so I think this is a great program, and I'll keep my eye on it when over to and take a picture and upload it. All right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carry. Okay, without objection, I'd like to combine items 2 and 3.
Yeah.
2 is a submission of a stop order, and 3 is administration of those funds. Any objection combining 2 and 3? Okay, sure. Yeah, any
These are
question?
annual grants. It seems kind of weird that we have to have an intermunicipal agreement with our own sheriff's office, but if you remember. Stop DWI, the program used to be outside the sheriff's office. It was Patty Miller's program. We've agreed to administer it. We have a female that runs it through our office. But it's kind of separate. It comes through the foundation, and then we share the funding with probation, the district attorney's office, Glens Falls, and our sheriff's office. This will, in 2 resolutions, agree to accept the grant funding, do the budget amendments, and get us going for next year with Stop DWI.
Very good. Thank you for that explanation. Supervisor McGowan, move it second. Supervisor Smith, any further questions on the Supervisor Leggett?
Thank you. On all these grants and all the great work you do out there, do you see improvement? Are these efforts paying off?
Well, there's definitely a need. We see results in the way of enforcement efforts. They're still sadly coming back with citations for violations. We still see impaired operators on our roadways. It'd be hard to say that I didn't come with any statistics that could say that the instances of impaired operation have increased or decreased in Warren County over the past years, any trends. But I will say, as long as I'm sheriff and they're offering this funding, we are going to aggressively do everything we can to keep our roadways safe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
One of the ideas of being in with the other partnerships are to be able to help people that do get ticketed and such. There's, for substance abuse counseling and things like that. Will that get them there? Because I'm sure that's a lot of it.
We hope, and typically that will come through the portion of the district attorney's office. But, we're doing so much more in our sheriff's office to make connections to people with services, because just like with impaired operations, a larceny, any type of offenses, so oftentimes there is a nexus with addiction, with mental health. And rather than just see it as a blanket offense, consequence, don't do it again, better. We know that there are people that if we get them some support and some help, and we are a catalyst for that, we're going to improve our community.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question on this? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next item is a request to transfer funds within the sheriff's office budget to address deficits in corrections, food, and law enforcement, automotive supplies and repair codes. Sure.
Yes, we're coming into that time of year. Last year, we made a couple of amendments to our budget for foods, 13,000, 75,000. Just to stay outside deficit. Food expenses have increased. We do an excellent job supporting our sheriff's office right now with our fleet. And you've increased our vehicle reserves. And just for an example, in 2023, we ordered 5 new patrol vehicles with this budget funding. And those 5 vehicles are just now being received, and they're starting to get upfitted. So we're in October. And with that, the vehicles that should have been replaced, you think by April, we're using these new vehicles. It's just not the trend anymore. So our fleet is still tired. We're still catching up. Services for these vehicles, the prices have increased, and we're just needing to do more. So we're trying to stay within our own budget, transferring monies surplus from salaries into these codes to make sure that we are no longer in deficit.
Very good. Anything else for sure?
No.
You move it. Second, Supervisor Smith. Question. All in favor? Stand by, Supervisor.
Comment. I mean, the sheriff has a good point, and that is that on all the equipment, what we're experiencing is enormous order times, a year or more. So everything's having to happen, as much as 2 years ahead of what it used to be. And So. Something I don't see going away, so something we're all gonna have to get used to in our planning.
Other comments, questions? All in favor? Opposed? Carry. Do you have any discussion items for us?
I have none, unless you have questions for me.
Supervisor Thomas.
That's reinforced tailgate.
Absolutely. It's following too closely under the New York State Vehicle and Traffic Law. If we observe it, it's something that we would definitely make a stop for. But I will say. The biggest complaint that I receive from our public relates to traffic. It's not that my neighbor next door is selling illegal drugs. It's people are speeding on my street, people are driving too fast, people are not stopping for the stop signs. Nobody stops for the intersection of 9 and 254. I'm in an unmarked vehicle, I see it all the time. When we come out to Stony Creek and we enforce a roadway, when you're sitting there with a marked vehicle, everything corrects, behavior adjusts.
Don't understand it.
And it's as good as the time that we're sitting there and sometimes for 10 or 15 minutes following. A lot of what we're doing with this selective targeted enforcement program, our STEP funding. And our targeted enforcement that we do when we receive complaints through Safe Pace with our website. That's exactly what we're doing. We're focusing areas. We're using our resources to try to determine the best times of day to utilize officers to attack these types of violations. I could say with absolute certainty that if it's observed, we'll make a stop. I will say that depending on the stop and it's the officer's discretion, there's not always a need for a citation that, a good stern warning and a conversation about traffic safety, it could suffice. And we're still live in a small enough county where if you see an offense and you make a stop and you give a warning today, if it's that person's behavior, if that's how they drive every day, we're going to see them again. We're going to make another stop and the next time they wouldn't receive a warning. I don't know if you had a specific instance or a question that you wanted to address.
It's not one instance, it's instances. I drive back and forth from Stony Creek to here to then come over here and spend our money over in Queensbury. And it seems like at least 50% of the time, either one way or the other, I got somebody right on my butt, even if I'm going the speed limit. You know what I mean? And I find that to be very annoying.
I'm not going to pick on Stony Creek, but Supervisor, I'm going to share with you. My wife and I went to Stony Creek for a retirement party. It was 2 weekends ago, very rainy Saturday. On my way out, I had a car that was behind me, following me so closely that I had to pull over and get out of the way to let them go by. And on my way back, the same thing. I had somebody following me so closely that I had to pull over to get out of the way. And my wife says, "You're the sheriff. What am I going to do about it at this point? I could call it in." And that's what I would encourage you to do or the public to do is to call it in, because hopefully we would be fortunate enough to have an officer in the area that could find that vehicle, find that plate, stop, have a conversation with them. It's a traffic infraction that did not occur in our presence, so we would have no ability to write a ticket for that violation. Oftentimes following too closely is something that we issue a citation for in a motor vehicle accident following a collision.
No, it happens a lot.
And it seems strange because I was going to Stony Creek. It was along, that roadway and on the way out and on the way back, it happened to me.
Supervisor McGowan.
Yes, thank you. Sheriff, just a flick quick of your lights, maybe you would have backed them off, just to let them recognize that this is an official vehicle.
I was in my personal vehicle, and I'm gonna strongly discourage all of you to do anything with anyone nowadays. If somebody's driving at you with their high beams on, I tolerate it. I don't flick my high beams anymore. And I go right back to our Walmart shooting instance last year that started as a very simple, minor, somebody cut somebody off type of roadway transaction that escalated very quickly. So we always encourage people, call the police. If you can't think of the non-emergency number, call 911. And if you can't do that, just pull over, let them go by, let them live the life they deserve, and you operate safely.
Good advice, Sheriff. Thank you.
Yes.
Supervisor Leggett, did you have a question?
I was just saying, come down 28 from Red Creek. I witnessed it, I go, man, they're close. And this time of year, there's this thing because red jumps out from the side of the road. And it happens so fast that all of a sudden, still the fender bender, you've got smashed in rear end and all of that, so.
I was at an event in Hague last night, and just to mention these roadways, I'm very familiar with our county, I'm all over the place. Dory and I make it down into Bolton Landing, and Bolton Landing is a 40. And it's a beautiful roadway, you'd think people would want to take their time, enjoy the foliage. Same thing, I'm going 40, and I think people think it's a suggestion, not a speed limit, not a requirement. Everybody wants to go 65 up 9 Lakeshore Drive. And we realize it, please know that our officers realize it. It is ingrained in them that traffic safety is public safety, and they have expectations as to go out and make sure that our roadways are safe. But I've said it before, there are often times for 932 square miles, you have 4 of our officers out covering that area, and it can be a lot.
Anything else for the sheriff? All right, Sheriff, thank you for joining us, and please extend our thanks to all of your folks that you referenced so many times today. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All right, no other discussion. I will open up the privilege of the floor. Any committee members have anything they'd like to address? Supervisor McGowan?
Yes, I would just like to see how, what is the procedure that we move possibly next to, for the grant situations that we talked about earlier? Does that have to go to legislation rules? Do we have to do something? How do we move that forward to, allowing, the directors to,
You're talking you just approved the resolution for Office of Emergency Services.
but we have other departments that, you know, have to come in for the grants. I was hoping maybe to streamline it for all directors, since it always has to come back and a sign off from our chairman.
County Administrator?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me take a look at that and I'll come back with a recommendation. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Any other discussion from the committee? Other members that are here, board, members of the public? And then accept the motion to adjourn. Supervisor Conover, second Supervisor Smith, any discussion? I thank all the committee